All right, so we are going to get started. We thank everyone for joining us today. Today we're going to go over the career opportunities, resources available, and also just the pathway to becoming a CPA. So we will start with our introductions. So I am Ashley Plushko. I'm the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Accountancy Board. I have been here for about 3 years, and then I also have our examination coordinator, who I will let introduce herself.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Simone Chambers at the Oklahoma Accountancy Board. I am the examination coordinator.
Thank you, Simone. And then Blaine, if you'd like to introduce yourself and anyone else on your side.
Sure. This is Blaine Peterson. I'm the president CEO of the Oklahoma Society of CPAs. And I think we do have Stephanie Tragakos and Nancy Vaughn with our team. They're joining us today as well. Glad to be here.
That's great. We're excited to have everybody. All right, so like I said, for those of you who just joined the call, there is a Q&A function that you're welcome to ask questions throughout, and we will have a question and answer session at the end. Also, if you are wanting extra credit, you will need to use the forms link that's in the first Q&A section, or the first Q&A question. That will take you to where you can enter your name, your professor, and your university, and we will use that to then verify your attendance and let your professor know that you did attend the webinar. So Blaine is actually going to kick us off, and he's going to tell us some great details about why you should become a CPA and the career opportunities and a bunch of other exciting things about being a CPA. So I'm actually at this point going to pass it off to Blaine.
Oh, thank you, Ashley. And glad to be here. Glad that we have such a great crowd today. I'll go ahead and tee up my slides. Hopefully you can see that now. Anyway, we just wanted to kind of kick off a little bit and talk about what the role of the OSCPA is, and give you a little bit of background into the accounting and specifically the CPA profession. So we're excited you're here. So again, I'm Blaine Peterson, the president and CEO of the OSCPA. I have been a CPA now for exactly 30 years, so I'm pretty passionate about the profession. It's certainly served me throughout my professional career. I did practice for about a little over 20 years before transitioning into this role as CEO of the society, and I get to do fun things like this all the time to promote the profession. So it's a great profession. It gives you a ton of opportunities, which we'll talk about here shortly. Now, real quickly, the Oklahoma Society of CPAs, if you have some exposure to us, we have a lot of campus events and student membership, which we'll talk about. But we are the membership association for CPAs. We basically we represent two groups of individuals: accounting students, such as yourself, and then CPAs that are actually licensed in Oklahoma and working in the state. We've been around for over 100 years, as you can see. That's how long the CPA credential has been around, and we have as well. We've got over 5,000 members that we appreciate and work with on a daily basis. And at the heart of it, what we do is we really advocate for the profession, the CPA profession, both at the Oklahoma state level and national. And when I say that, I mean not just the profession, the credential, but for all of those that make up our membership, the student members, as well as CPAs throughout the state. So how do we do that? Big picture wise is we kind of break it down into three main categories. Number one, we want to connect you. After 30 years in this profession, realize how important it is for you to network, to build your circle of influence now while you're completing your academic education, and once you start your career, build that network. That's going to be your resource. That's going to be people that want you to succeed. You want them to succeed. And so a big part of what we do is bring all of those groups together. If you're already a student member, you've probably been to some mix and mingles where we want to help build that network. We have events around the state as well where we want to connect you with CPAs that are either early career CPAs, maybe they're experienced CPAs. They want to get to know you, okay? That's one great thing about the CPA profession is it's not standoffish. All of our members want to get to know you, and they want you to be successful. And so that's a great way to do that through the various activities and events that Stephanie and Nancy plan. The second thing we do is we provide a lot of support for our members. Again, student members as well as practicing CPAs. From a student perspective, our team puts together a package of benefits that hopefully provides you a lot of help as you go through your education. Number one is money. Okay, we give out about $65,000 in scholarships every year to Oklahoma accounting majors. So once you become a student member with us, you'll get emails and be made aware when that scholarship application opens up. That typically opens up in late November, early December. So look for that. Love giving money away to students here in Oklahoma. We want to ease that burden a little bit as we can. But we also provide other benefits as well. We'll talk about in a minute things like resources and exam guides. And then finally, I'd say we advance the profession. As you finish your school, work in your profession, you're going to want to develop into a leader, into an advocate for the profession and yourself. We want you to develop a career that is tailored to what your desires are and kind of how you see your career going. So we have a lot of activities with committees. We have a volunteer board of directors. We have a lot of leadership programs that you can get involved with and kind of develop that skill set, how to lead a meeting, a committee, things of that nature as well. And so those are kind of the three big categories that we try to support students in every way we can. A few of those is number one, free membership. So when I say become a student member from the OSCPA, you can go to oscpa.com and join up as a member. That is at no cost to you. Okay, so it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. The Deloitte firm pays for those memberships in advance every year. So that's thank you, Deloitte, if anyone's online. We appreciate you underwriting those memberships for our students. The main reason they do that is we want to build that connection with you as early as possible during your academic career, while you're preparing and taking the CPA exam, and really for the rest of your career. So take advantage of that. That's a real benefit. Our team works together every single day to try to find other ways to support accounting students as well as our members as well. I mentioned scholarships and awards. A couple of really neat things. We do have discounts on CPA exam prep. So when you take a prep course to take that exam, there's some benefits there. We also have mock exams. That's a real benefit that I would encourage you to take advantage of. It's really helpful when you go and take the CPA exam to know what that is like, what you're getting into, eliminate that surprise. So we offer free mock exams. It also gives you a score. It tells you kind of areas that maybe you want to focus on more than others through that journey. So that's a real benefit as well. Again, that's available to all of our student members. And again, real world networking. We always want to find opportunities to put you in the room with not just other students, but actual CPAs, employers. Our members love coming to those events. We have mentor match type programs. They want to get to know you. That's a great job opportunity for you to build that connection. And we'll talk about why that's a real huge issue. So then I want to pivot a little bit and talk about the CPA license itself. So again, we're the association. All we do day in and day out is support the CPA profession and all of our CPAs, whatever that might be. So I view the CPA as really a superpower badge, is kind of how we look at it. It's really the ticket that gets you to wherever you want to go in your career, right? And so sometimes we look at, well, you can have an accounting degree and not be a CPA. What's the difference between a CPA and a non-CPA? Obviously, higher salaries are afforded to CPAs. I think $20,000 is probably on the low end. It's probably higher than that the further you go in your career. We have a lot of members that do get their CPA later in the career. Earlier is better, but it's never too late because it does offer some more flexibility in your career. Career flexibility. A lot of people think about CPAs as all they do are taxes and audit and accounting, right? That's not the case anymore. CPAs are involved in every function of every business that there is, whether it's a one-person operation or a Fortune 500 operation. They have to have accounting services, and CPAs are the premier accounting professionals out there. So aside from taxes and audit, we see cybersecurity, data analytics, going into all kinds of roles. The other thing people kind of attribute to CPAs is, well, I'm going to have to work for a CPA firm my whole life. And that may be great. CPA firms are wonderful, right? They do accounting services for their clients. That's actually less than half of all CPAs in our state and really nationwide as well. The majority of CPAs don't work for CPA firms. They work for every other employer that's in our marketplace. So corporations, you think of the OKC Thunder and Loves and places like that. All of them employ CPAs, oil companies, banks, the government sector, whether it's at the state level or federal level. They hire CPAs because they have to have those accounting services. Looking away from money, if you're driven by a sense of purpose and you want to make a difference, nonprofit space hire CPAs. We're a staff of 10 at the OSCPA, and we have 2 CPAs on staff because every single entity has to have what we provide. And so it's not just public accounting. It's not just audit and tax. It's not even, most jobs today are virtual, or at least virtual to an extent. The economy has really changed in our world, and really ultimately it comes down to credibility and trust. We talk about the 4 E's to become a CPA. That's why CPAs are so valuable, right? Because this accounting is the language of business, right? To quote Warren Buffett. So who do you want to handle your accounting, your dollars? Who are you going to entrust your financial security to? A non-CPA or a CPA? Most people want a CPA because of the 4 E's, because they know they have their education. You're going to have your accounting degree because they've passed a rigorous exam, the CPA examination. They know that you're going to have accounting experience. That's required for licensure. And then finally, ethics. The 4th E is ethics. They know that you live and practice by a code of ethics. You're not going to do something inappropriate that's going to jeopardize your livelihood, your reputation. You're going to, accountants are very ethical people, so we're going to do things the right way. That's why we're so trusted in the marketplace, and that's why it's such a great marketplace. The last thing I want to say is, look at the 3rd bullet here, huge demand. If you take, besides building your network, all right, and we talked about early on, the second thing I want you to take away from this is there has never been a better time to be a CPA. And that's because of the supply demand. CPA services are at an all-time high when it comes to demand. The tax world keeps getting more and more complex every time we have a new tax bill, such as the One Big Beautiful Bill, right? Accounting services continue to expand. We don't just do audit, payroll, and monthly financials. We're doing cybersecurity audits. We're getting involved in data analytics and information systems. Since COVID, the CPAs got involved with the PPP program, the ERC program. So our services continue to increase. Likewise, as technology and AI start working their way into our profession, our demand for our services continue to grow. However, those services aren't entry-level data entry type of services. You're going to be entering the profession at a higher level, doing higher value analytical work, which I think is wonderful. So the demand is there. The issue is the supply side. All right. We have more CPAs are retiring each year than those of you that are becoming CPAs. So the number of CPAs is reducing year by year, purely because of demographics. Okay, the baby boomers outnumber us 3 to 1. They're starting to retire at a rapid pace. That is a great place for you to be. Demand's at an all-time high. The supply is going down. That means once you get your accounting degree, and preferably your CPA, you're not going to have to worry about finding a job. The jobs are there. Okay, that's one of the things at the society. We have a job board. Our members are very active, trying to build connection with candidates such as yourself, because they want you to not just come and work for them because they have the demand there. They want you to eventually take over their organization, their practice, whatever that case may be. That's literally the marketplace that we're in. And so it is a seller's market. You've timed this perfectly to start this journey. I'd encourage you to finish it according to your timeline, because literally this is the ideal time to do that. And so next steps, again, I want to encourage you to join as a student member. That way we can reach out to you via email and other communication channels and inform you of all of our incoming activities. I know Nancy's online. Maybe she can put it in the chat or something. We've got some mix and mingles coming up here in a couple of weeks. We would love to see you there. Again, you're going to meet other students and you're going to meet CPAs and build that connection that's going to serve you for the rest of your career. And so I encourage you to do that, take advantage of those resources. And we're, again, just privileged to be here and share some information about the CPA profession with you.
Thank you so much, Blaine. We actually have a couple of questions here that I thought we could go ahead and answer real fast, if you're good with that.
Absolutely.
All right, so you might have touched on this, but just to make sure, an individual asked if there was a membership that is not student but doesn't have a CPA yet. So I guess someone who's kind of in the middle.
Sure, absolutely. We also, between student and fellow member, we also have a two membership categories, associate and provisional. Basically, those, if you've passed the exam but you don't have your experience yet, but you will eventually, that's one category. If you've completed your education and you're working on that, that's in those two categories as well. So we do have two categories in between there, because once we don't want to lose you, okay? We want to maintain that communication throughout your journey.
Right, that's great. And I actually just added Nancy, so if she would like to share those mix and mingles in the Q&A, she is certainly welcome to do that. And we actually have one last question. And so just to confirm, you can join the OSCPA anytime throughout the entire process.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's great. And then if anyone has any additional, oh, it looks like one more. All right. Oh, and yep. So looks like, yes, as someone posted about a bash they were having. So looks like Megan is helping us out there. So, and if anyone has any more questions for Blaine, there's going to be another question session at the end, and Blaine's going to stay with us through the entire time. So feel free to go ahead and ask questions. And so now that you've heard about the great reasons why to become a CPA, now we're going to tell you how. Okay, so just for my people who have joined the call, we have had a few people join. If you are a student who's looking to receive extra credit, if you go to the Q&A section, pinned at the top is a note and a link that will take you to a Microsoft form where you'll enter your data, and we'll use that to verify attendance and let your professor know. So just kind of sprinkling that throughout. All right, so I'm going to share if I can get my computer to work properly. Yes, all right. So Simone is actually going to kick us off, and she's going to start with where the journey all begins, and that is sitting for the exam. So Simone, if you want to walk us, oh yes.
Could I wanted to plug in our student events.
Oh yes, would you like to say something real fast about the student events?
Yes.
Oh yes, that's perfectly fine.
So we have, before we move on to this, so we have our upcoming student events. There's two this month. There's one at Chicken and Pickle on October 23rd. That's a Thursday. It's free to attend. We'd like to see all of you guys there. We're gonna have some CPAs there too. They're dying to meet you all. And you can sign up on our website at oscpa.com. We also have a free CPA mock exam that is also this month. It's October 22nd. And you can also sign up online as well.
Right, that's great. See, so something that, so you don't have to be alone in your journey. You can feel that way with so much remote work and remote education. You don't have to do it alone. Pre-made community. So, all right. Well, Simone, if you want to kick us off, we're going to talk about how to join the CPA candidate community.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Hope I'm not having, okay.
Yes.
So these are the minimum requirements to sit for the CPA exam currently in Oklahoma. The first big requirement is that you need to have at least 120 credit hours along with a bachelor's degree or its equivalent. And what we mean by its equivalent is that let's say if you're in a dual degree program, say you're working on a bachelor's and a master's at the same time, you still need to hit that 120 credit hour minimum and complete the undergraduate portion. And in order for us to accept that, we would need a letter from the school attesting that you have earned your undergrad hours for your bachelor's. Even though it won't be posted until you completed that master's, that letter will be sufficient still. Next, you need at least 24 hours of upper level accounting coursework, and this means courses above the basic principal level and beyond the introductory accounting courses that usually comes after your financial and managerial accounting classes. In some cases, 2000 level accounting courses might count, but it's not always clear. So when in doubt, just give me a call or email me with the syllabus just to reach out to confirm. And also, not every graduate level class will qualify as well. For example, some of the MBA 5000 level courses may still cover principles level content, but what matters the most is the course content. So you can send me the syllabus. And within those 24 hours of accounting above principles, you are required to take a course in auditing or assurance. And you'll have to make sure it's external auditing because internal auditing will not meet the requirement. And you also need 9 credit hours in upper division courses in the approved business related subjects. There's a total of 9, but to name a few business subjects that we do accept are courses in economics, finance, marketing, management, and these should also all be upper level or in the 3000 and above levels. Right now, there's also a residency requirement, although this is something that will no longer be required on November 1st, but where things stand right now is that you only need to meet the residency requirement at the time of your initial application. And you don't have to live in Oklahoma throughout your whole entire exam journey after that, after you're approved. PO boxes are not accepted for the residency requirement unless you're living in a university dorm. I think they still have PO boxes. So those are the basics that you need to know before applying for the CPA exam here in Oklahoma. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me any questions related to exams, and I'll be happy to try and guide you through that. And with that, I will give the presentation back over to you, Ashley. Thank you.
All right, that's great. Sometimes that is the first thing that's the hardest thing to get done. And so we will, and just like Simone might have mentioned, the residency requirement is going away on November 1st, but up until that time, you will need to be a resident of Oklahoma to apply to sit for the CPA exam. All right. So now that she has talked to you about what you need to actually sit for the CPA exam, I'm going to talk about who you deal with. So for fortunately or unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with 3 different entities when you apply to sit for the CPA exam. You're going to deal with us, the Oklahoma Accountancy Board, NASBA, which is the National Association of Boards of Accountancy, and then Prometric. So in regard to Oklahoma, so this is going to be where you send your actual application to sit for the CPA exam. We're going to check all of your requirements, make sure you meet all of them. This is going to include both your initial application to sit and all of your exam applications. So you'll apply to sit for the exam, and then you'll also apply each time you want to take a section. You are able to apply to sit for more than one section at a time. It just depends on what works best for you. So we will go over what all of that application consists of later. So we do suggest you apply when all conditions are met in regard to those educational requirements. And we will go over the checklist that's available to you a little bit later. Also, ADA requests are submitted to our agency. We go through, we like to encourage people that regardless of their situation, we will work with you so that you can be a successful CPA candidate. If you have any questions about that, you can call Simone and she can help you with that. So also in regard to NASBA, you will have an OAB portal and a NASBA portal. So a NASBA portal is going to be where you go and you pay your actual testing fee. So you'll pay $90 to us for an application fee and then $75 for an exam fee. And then you will go to NASBA and actually get your notice to schedule, which is what will then allow you to actually schedule to sit for your test. You will go there after you are approved by us. And then upon payment, your notice to schedule will be able to download. I like to say that we're the cheap ones and NASBA's the expensive ones because right now we're averaging about $265 per section of the CPA exam. So you will have 3 months after you get an approved exam up from us to pay your notice to schedule cost. At that point, it will expire and you'll need to work with us to move forward. So once you actually have your notice to schedule, then you'll be able to go to Prometric. And this is going to be where you actually schedule an exam section. You will go in, and we're going to talk a little bit later about all the different places you can test, but that's going to be where you go in. I do like to mention that Prometric can be kind of intimidating because they have tons of security, but don't let it throw you off. They do that to everybody. It's nothing personal, but it's going to be Prometric you actually test through. All right, so let's talk about score release. So this was actually a really, really big topic when we did our first candidate webinar earlier this year and then also last year because they had just changed the exam. There were these big long lags between when you would sit and when you receive your test score. The good news is that has changed somewhat, at least for what we call the core sections. We're going to go over what the core sections are and the discipline sections here actually next. So the good news is that the core sections are going back to continuous testing and pretty much pretty quick score releases. Think every 3 to 4 weeks. Discipline sections are staying on a block score release schedule. And so it means like you might sit in July and you won't get your score until like August. I do like to mention, unfortunately, the board has no control over this. This is controlled by the AICPA, but we do keep an up-to-date testing schedule, or not testing schedule, like score release date schedule. It's in our bulletin. If you're not signed up for that, go ahead and sign up for our bulletin. We list it every single month and double check those. And then also you can just go to the AICPA website and they also have the score release dates. All right. So now let's talk about the CPA exam. So one thing I like to mention is your notice to schedule that we talked about a couple slides before is actually only good for 6 months. So if you want to take all 4 sections, you'll have to make sure and schedule pretty rapidly. Of the 3 core sections, so for all CPA candidates, everyone has to take the same 3 core sections and you get to pick one discipline. So the 3 core sections that you are able to choose, that you have to take, not choose, you choose the discipline, is you have financial accounting and reporting, and that is going to cover like your GAAP and IFRS, your financial statements and transactions, your non-for-profits and government. Then you have regulation, which is basically your tax. So you've got federal taxation, other tax issues, and then auditing a test. So you're going to be assessing risk and appropriate response, audit procedures, conclusions, and reports. And like I said, all CPA candidates have to take those 3 regardless. But then you get the pick. So you have the disciplines. So I jokingly call the core like your general education and your disciplines the major. Technically, it doesn't fit perfectly because the reason I say that is because you can switch the disciplines as much as you want, but it actually doesn't change anything. So regardless of which discipline you pick, your CPA is going to be the same. No one is going to know that you picked what discipline you picked unless they ask you or you tell them. It's not going to show on the public record. It's not going to show on your CPA certificate. Everyone gets the same CPA. Also, so the 3 disciplines are business analytics and reporting, and this is most closely aligned with FAR, financial accounting and reporting. And you're going to be looking at data analytics focus, financial risk management, financial planning, and other advanced accounting topics. And then you have information systems and controls. This is actually probably one of the more unique ones. It probably mostly closely aligns with auditing, but it's definitely more different than like business analytics from FAR and tax compliance and planning from regulation. This is going to be your IT and data governance, your information system security, and things like that. And then last but not least, you have tax compliance and planning. So you have advanced tax compliance there. You have your personal entity financial planning there, your advanced gross income topics there. All of that's going to be combined. So one thing I like to mention is once you pick a discipline, you are not stuck there. So let's say you think that you are an excellent tax person and you take tax compliance and planning and you don't do too Swift. And you're like, okay, you know what? I'm feeling I'm more of an IT person now. That's okay. You can go over to information systems and controls. There is nothing that once you pick one, you're stuck there. Well, the only caveat is if you have not received your score back from your discipline, then you cannot go ahead and sign up for a different discipline. You do have to wait for that score to come back. One thing I'd like to also mention is that you can take them one at a time. You can take 2 and 2. You can take them all 4 in one six-month period. You can't really take all 4 in one day because they're each 4 hours long. I guess you could take them in day 1 and day 2. But don't ever feel pressured that you have to take them fast. So it took me 2 years to pass. On average, we started collecting this data in November of 2023. So November of 2023 through now, on average, it takes about 34 months from someone from the time they apply to sit all the way to they apply to licensure. So don't ever feel like you have to rush it. That's one of the biggest things I hear from students is they know so-and-so who was able to do it in 6 months. Just know that's actually not the norm. So feel free to take a longer time. We're going to talk about the full time frame that you have here in a little bit. All right. So all right. Now let's talk about how long you have. So this one is a little bit more complicated. So back in, it would have been fall of last year, we changed the amount of time to sit for the CPA exam from 18 months to 30 months. It was 18 months for pretty much from the time they started computerizing the exam. And there was a decision that possibly 30 months was needed to give students and candidates more time. So this is because there's a lot more, there isn't a lot of times firms would know when their individuals were sitting for the exam, they could work their work around it. And now everyone sits at their own schedule because they have continuous testing. So people needed more of that time. And so they stretched it out to 30 months. So now I will say that if you are not sure when your candidacy ends, you can call us and we can help you out with that for any of my current candidates on the call. Also, we have a QR code at the end that is going, because I'm about to give you a lot of information about the 30 months. It looks like such a simple slide that is more complicated than it appears. And so there is a QR code at the end where it will tell you, will break down all of what I've been telling you in a PDF form.
Hey, Ashley.
Oh, yes. Okay. So as I was saying, it will show me as Heather Grable, but it is certainly not. And so, okay, so now we are going to talk about the 30 month. So like I was saying, you have 30 months and you kind of have 3 different segments. So you have 30 months. So let's say you individually applied and got approved to sit for the exam. So you have 30 months from that time to take at least one section of the exam. That does not mean that you have to pass. You just have to at least sit. Okay, so let's say that you sit, but you do not pass. What that does is it restarts that 30-minute clock. And so not 30 minute, thankfully not 30 minutes, 30-month clock. And so from the time you sit, you have 30 more months to at least sit for a section. So let's say you've at least passed one section. Your 30-month clock to pass all 4 starts on the date your score was released. Not the date you set, but the date your score was released. And at that point, you must set for the other 3 sections and successfully pass, and this is what trips people up until the time you have to sit for your last section within that 30 months. You do not have to get your score released within that 30 months for that last section, but you do have to sit for that last section in the 30 months. So let's say that you do that and let's say you don't get that 4th section and 30 months passes. What happens is that first section that you passed rolls off and your new 30-month mark to pass all 4 sections then becomes the score release date for the second section in essence that you passed because your first one expired. So you'll want to make sure and keep that in mind as well. And one thing I'd like to mention here is your notice to schedule is good for 6 months. It is not tied to the 30-month window of being an active candidate. So people are able to sit for an exam when they're an inactive candidate, but not to good consequences, as in don't do it. So your notice to schedule might say that you can sit until maybe March of 2027, but your candidacy actually ends in December 2026. If you go ahead and sit in March of 2027, we will not be able to release your score to you because you are not an active candidate. You must be an active candidate to sit for a section of the exam and us release your score to you. So what we tell you is we actually had this happen. We had a lady who realized the day before that her candidacy had become inactive and she was scheduled to sit for a section the next day. She called us. We were able to expedite her qual app because you have to basically do the process again to apply. We were able to expedite that and get her as an active candidate. So when she went the next day to sit for the section of the exam, then she was able to actually receive that score. So make sure you're paying attention not only when your NTS expires, but also when your candidacy expires, especially if it's been a long time since you have actually set for a section. All right, Simone, if you want to do the next slide. All right. Oh, and it changed. Okay. Victory is there. All right. So this is kind of just a fun little, mnemonic. I believe that's how you say that, to help you kind of remember what you need for your application to sit. And it says CPA to be. So we are going to need those college transcripts. They have to be original and sealed. Or electronic. So we will take them in a sealed envelope from the college. It can either be sent directly from the college, or if the college actually hands you an envelope and you are able to then put it in an envelope and mail it or bring it into us, as long as it's sealed, that's okay. You can also make sure you can have them use e-scripts and send it to us electronically. We do not take transcripts that have been opened because we do have prior cases where people have falsified their transcripts all the way to the point that they actually became CPAs, and then we figured it out and their CPA license was revoked for failure to meet the requirements. So we do require that those transcripts be original. Also, the passport photo, this is so we can make sure that you don't send a test taker in your place. It does not have to be fancy. You can literally just take a picture in front of your face and that will be sufficient as long as it's clear. You don't have to go down to Walgreens or anything like that. We also do need an affidavit of lawful presence that is notarized. This is required by state law. And so if you are someone here who is on a visa or something like that and you have questions, just feel free to give us a call back and we'll help you with that. Also, there are two fees to pay currently. We have the application fee and the background check. The background check fee will be going away once we transition to doing away with the residency requirement and also implementing national background checks. But that's something we're going to talk about a little bit when we talk about licensure requirements. And like I said, if you have all of this, usually it takes about 5 to 7 days for approval to sit. Some months we run a little better, 3 to 5, but 5 to 7 is a pretty safe bet. And you will hear from us whether or not you've been approved. All right, Simone, if you want to go to the next one. All right, so I'm going to touch very, very briefly on this. Like I said, use Prometric to actually schedule the test. And you can, once you apply and are approved to sit in Oklahoma, you can sit as an Oklahoma candidate anywhere. So let's say you're going to an Oklahoma university, but you want to go back home to Illinois or California, but you still want to test as an Oklahoma candidate, you can. Once you're initially approved, it does not matter where you test across the nation or internationally. I have a few examples there: Japan, Guam, Philippines. You can test as an Oklahoma candidate in all those places. Also, so I just want to mention a couple common mistakes we see. One is that your notice to schedule and your ID do not match. When you go to Prometric, they will ask you to see your notice to schedule and also to see your ID. They must match. The only caveat is the middle initial. If the middle initial is the same as your full middle name, then there are some allowances for that. But we see this a lot with our individuals who have gotten married or divorced. So if you are in the middle of your testing process and one of those happens, make sure and give us a call so we can get your notice of schedule and your ID matching so you can successfully sit to test. Also timing out on the launch screen. So for those of you who have set already, you know, they ask you basically, there's this little instructional screen that says, you know, this is the CPA exam for FAR, you have 4 hours, there's 3 breaks, here's the calculator. Well, what happens is people start to melt and they start to kind of get test anxiety and they don't enter their launch code and hit launch the exam. If you wait longer than 5 minutes, it will time out and you will not be able to get back into the test and you will lose all of that $250 and you will have to reschedule. There's nothing we can do or Prometric can do or NASBA can do to make it where you can get back in that test. So I just always tell people hit launch and have the meltdown on the first question, just not on the launch screen. Saves you lots of money. All right, Simone? All right, certification requirements. So currently in Oklahoma, you are required to have a minimum of 150 hours of college credit, including a bachelor's degree. It does not have to be a master's, but you do have to have 150 hours of college credit. Of that 150 hours, 30 hours do have to be those accounting above principal. So it's 6 hours higher than what is needed to sit for the exam, including that one course of external auditing. You also have to have the 9 business hours, but that's not on here because it was already met for the requirement to sit for the exam. You must pass all 4 parts of the CPA exam. This includes the 3 core and then just 1 discipline of your choice. You also have to complete the AICPA ethics exam with a score of 90% or higher. And I like to tell people, you think, I'm an ethical person. I know not to steal money. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to follow the rules. I'm great. So if only this exam was that simple, I like to say that I passed the CPA exam on the first time, but I did not pass this on the first time. So I had to take it twice. It goes into independence rules, and it is a little bit more difficult than you expect. It is open book, however. So I always tell people to give due diligence on that. And then last but not least is the experience requirement. You must have 1,800 hours of work experience in accounting within the last 4 years before applying to certification. So for example, if you apply for certification in 2026, you cannot count any experience that happened prior to 2022. So you'll need to get new experience. And Simone, if you want to go to the next one, I will talk a little bit about the experience requirement. All right, so Oklahoma is a bit different in the experience requirement. The main parts are we do not require a CPA verifier. If your boss or whoever supervises you is not a CPA, that is okay. They just have to write a letter of their qualifications, and we have a special committee that will look over those, and they usually approve them. I've only seen them denied once, and it was because it was a family member, so they were concerned about the conflict of interest. And so you'll talk to people in other states like, oh no, it has to be a CPA. It does not have to be a CPA in Oklahoma. It can also be paid or unpaid. So internship, volunteer work. We had someone recently who asked about the VITA program through the IRS. All of that counts. And so if you have a question about whether or not it will count, just feel free to give us a call. It can also be in government, industry, academia, or public accounting. So for example, I received my experience in government. You could do public accounting. We have some professors who have used teaching classes, and also industry if you work at Love's or Devon, etc. All of that will count. And also we will say in regard to an internship at this time, we do not allow double counting, meaning if you do an internship and you use it towards your 3 hours of like accounting credit, you cannot also claim that towards your 1,800 hours. So that's just something to remember. And that's kind of a really quick summary of the education. All right, we're going to talk moving states real fast, Simone, if you want to go to the next one. All right, for my people who, and sorry, I'm kind of hurrying through this since we had such a delay, so my apologies. So if you are thinking you want to start testing in Oklahoma but might want to go somewhere else, then that is perfectly possible. So your scores can be transferred to any state as long as you meet the qualifications in that state. Some states will take our interstate exchange form, which is what it's called, the score transfer form, while other states have a specialized form. So if you think you're going to want to do this, then you'll want to go ahead and have go ahead and contact the state to which you're going and ask them what form they need, but we will work with whatever state you're going to fill out their form. It doesn't have to be our form. It's just a form we offer if a state doesn't care. There is no fee associated with this, but I would suggest that you call the state you want to go to and then call us and we can help you with that. So in regard to reciprocity, so let's say you say, I think I want to get licensed in Oklahoma, but I might move to Texas in 2 years. So the nice thing about being a CPA is we have something called reciprocity. This relates to individuals after certification, so after you become a CPA. So the good news is all states will accept your CPA scores from Oklahoma. Now be aware there might be certain special certification requirements, like other things, maybe an ethics exam that's particular to that state. Perhaps you need to take an ethics, specific college course, something like that. But your CPA exam scores are good for all jurisdictions in the United States. Again, we recommend you call the state to which you're moving to transfer any scores, and there is no fee associated with that. All right, Simone, want to go to the next slide? All right, so you've already met Simone, and she's going to be your main point of contact for any exam questions. She's been doing this for about 3 years, so she's pretty good. Her phone number is on the screen. We also have several online resources. We have a Pathway to CPA infographic where we'll list every single, I think there's 24 steps from I think I want to become a CPA to I am a CPA. And if you go into that, if you click on the boxes, it will open up more specific instructions of how to do that step as well. We also have an eligibility checklist that will help you make sure you have all of the requirements to sit for the CPA exam. I actually used it when I was becoming a CPA. Also, you want to check out our website. We have helpful guides and FAQs on the OAB website. Also, I suggest that you check out our social media, sign up for our monthly bulletins. All of that is going to be where we have the most new up-to-date information. And we'll get it out to you quickly. In fact, that is what the QR code is for. It will scan and actually, so since I had to change computers, that is the old QR code, I just realized. So if you are on this call, I will send an email out to the email address provided with that packet of materials that includes several of the items that I just mentioned. All right, so you want to go to the next slide, Simone? We are to questions. All right. All right. Yes, the QR code I just realized does not work. It does not work because this is an older PowerPoint than the one I had on my computer. My apologies for that, but I will be sending that packet out to everyone who attended the webinar. So you will be receiving it. All right. So the question is also, what is an average timeline to receive the license after the application for a licensure is submitted? Okay, so it depends on 2 factors. So if you have everything that is together, then you will be approved to actually go before the board in 1 to 2 days. Is usually how long it takes. Now, one thing I like to mention is, like Simone mentioned, it takes 120 hours to sit, and currently right now 150 hours to license. So if you have to get us some additional transcripts, you are going to want to do that when you apply for licensure as close as possible, because if you do not, that will greatly delay your application for licensure. And so what happens is we get your application for licensure. We look to see if we need additional transcripts. If we have them, then Simone will look them over, give our licensing coordinator the green light, and she can finish processing your licensure application. If we don't have them, we have to reach out and we have to wait, and that can delay the All right. And do you still have to do the 40 hours of CPE? So you do if you have to have a permit. You will already get 8 hours of CPE with the AICPA ethics exam, but you are required to do 40 hours of CPE if you're applying for an initial permit. So yes. All right. Does the 1,800-hour work requirement have to be signed by a direct supervisor, or anyone in the firm that you work with can sign, like an admin or someone in the same level as you? So it cannot be an admin or someone is the same level as you. It does need to be someone who can supervise your work. Now, it does not always have to be a direct supervisor. If you have someone who is like a team lead, or every once in a while we'll have someone who's like a couple rungs up, or there's unique situations like that. But I would say if it's not your direct supervisor, give us a call so that you can talk us through that. But as a general rule, it does need to be a direct supervisor. If you are self-employed, there are very limited options in regard to what we can do. There is a pathway. It requires knowing a CPA for at least 2 years that is basically willing to write a letter and vouch for your work. But if you think you're going to be in that situation, give us a call so that we can handle that. All right. Let me see. All right. In order to receive your CPA license, do you still need the 150 credit hours or is it the 120? So currently in Oklahoma, it is 150 hours to receive your license. So as I'm sure all of y'all are aware, there are several states that have moved to 120 plus 2 or bachelor's plus 2. Oklahoma is looking at that. I would suggest that you keep an eye on that candidate bulletin and the social media in the next few months, because that is something the board is discussing. However, that is going to be something that, so right now it is 150 hours to license. All right. I would like to confirm if I am CPA eligible, who can I reach out to? And Heather and Simone both helped and said yes. So if you are wondering if you're CPA eligible, you can reach out to Simone Chambers. You can either email her or you can call her at the number that we showed before. All right. All right, so I think I have all of the questions. I did want to remind those who are wanting extra credit from your professor if they offered it. You do need to go to the pinned Q&A chat and use that link to fill out the form so that we can confirm your attendance to your professor. And is there any other questions before we close this out? All right. Well, we thank you very much, and we'll be sending out that packet, and we hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.